Welcome everyone. Good morning. Thank you for coming to my class. I'm very happy to see you all. I hope you had a good week. If you can turn on your cameras for the beginning for a little bit, would be great. Thank you, Lisa. So this is our last class about all of this briefing about art. And I promised you that we will do a lot of work today. You will do a lot of work. I will be showing you some things, but mainly I want you to practice. Even if you have done already some of practices similar to this, it's still important practicing more and more, because even me, when after many classes, many years or months, I don't practice and I only explain, the hand. Hi Maddie, welcome. Thank you for joining. So, So if if you don't use your hands, if you don't practice, you kind of start forgetting how these things work. Also, Matt, today I want to let you know that you can use for practice. You can use your tablet, any medium that you prefer. We will do some practices. Okay, it can be acrylic, drawing with color, or tablet, all fine, and watercolor. Charlotte, please show me thumbs up if you have materials today. Charlotte? Okay, can you please let me know what materials do you have? Is it watercolor or acrylic? Very good. Acrylic will be better. Okay, so let's begin with simple understandings of what are we going to do today. We're going to paint for your choice either an apple or a bell pepper. I prepared for you a few references so you can choose. But before we start, I will take just a few minutes to explain to you what we're going to do in general in terms of understanding of the form. So here you can see in front of you an image of 3 spheres. They are called spheres. Here, spheres. So these 3 spheres, we can call them also a ball, right? But in art it's called sphere. You see something very important because it's the same object, but you see it from a different in a different light. So you need to understand that when we're painting something or drawing an object, even if it's a portrait, we need to think about light. And in the corner over here, you see the light, the source of light. This source of light sends the light in different directions, and the closer the object is to the light, the more we will see of the light side of the object. It's a simple way to explain. There are many different ways. I want to be today easier because some of us in here are beginners. So we can see that the sphere has a different shades and lines, right? There is the lighter part, there is a little darker, then there is darker, a bit lighter again, and a shadow underneath, right? And the further the object is from the light, the less we see of this light part, and the more it's darker. The rest of the body of the sphere is darker. This is something to understand about the rounded shapes, okay? They can be of different forms, but overall, all the objects are rounded. Let's look at the face. Everything that we have, all the planes on the face, we are all existing in 3-dimensional space, right? So when I turn, shapes of my face change because what you see is your point of view. But overall, everything is rounded, just like a sphere. That is why when we start learning art, we start from drawing and painting spheres. You can see in a good example over here what happens with the light and the sphere and how the shadow is created under. When the light hits the sides, we create the edges of the shadow underneath. What do you think will happen if this source of light will go higher? Any ideas?
The white as well soothes in.
The white, yes, probably this will happen, but let's think what will happen with the shadow. Lisa, what will happen with the shadow? Tatli.
The shadow. It will like become larger.
Do you think it will become larger or smaller?
Larger?
Okay, let me draw for you. What will happen? Here is the sphere. If the light, let's do it not here, here. Here is the sphere. If the light hits, if it's higher, it's going to make the shadow right in the lines. The lower it is, the more it's becoming bigger. You see what happens? Because when we get closer, the areas that are wider on the objects, these will cut more light going down. This is what will happen. So the shadow underneath will become larger. In terms of the light, Madeline was right. The lower it is, it's also kind of going to become smaller but brighter. It's a little complicated. I don't want to go too deep into this today. We don't really have much time. But this is the idea. When the light is changing around the object, the angles or the heights and the distance, yeah? So all of this will influence how the object will look in our eyes. So let's now make sure we understand this in writing. For those for whom it will be easier like this. So the source matters. And we will say what influences the source. Distance, height. What else? What else did I just say? The distance, height, and angle. Yes, exactly. So for the shade, how we look, how we see the object, all of these three will matter. Now we will see some examples. Here is the good example of Shabbat of apples. They are making a ritual. And you can see that in the middle is the fire. Imagine that this is a witch apples and in the middle is the fire. And they are making a ritual. So what happens with the shadows is that, of course, every apple will cast the shadow behind, right? Makes sense. When we have the light in front of the object, shadow will go behind on the opposite side. And the brightness of the shadow will depend on the light around. So if the room is dark, if they are summoning somebody in the night, the shadow will be behind mainly. But if it was during the day, the shadows would be pretty much small. They would get lost in the light. So this is about the angle also. This is where the angle plays a big role too. So this is the angle. All right. Now, I was explaining to you a little bit. I showed you with the lines. For those who are not native English speakers, today I want you to see that there are some names of the I forgot the word. I'm sorry. The names of the, what's this word? Forget about it. Anyway, so in Russian, we see that the bleak What is the bleak? How do we call the bleak?
Glance.
How?
The lightest part, the highlights.
The highlight. Very good.
No, the
Thank you.
flashlight.
Yes, the highlight. The highlight. So we have the highlight. Then we have the light. Yes, the source of light. Where the svet is the light. This is the main light. It's not moving. Okay, that's the light. Then we see in this gray area here, this is half shade. Half shade. What's up with me today? Okay, half shade. Now we have shade. The tень is a shade. Okay. Then we have a cast shadow underneath. Падающая тень. This is cast shadow. This is what the objects do when we see shadow underneath. They cast shadows. Да заткнитесь вы. I don't know what's up with the cats. They're going crazy today. Okay, cast shadow. Now we have, this is very important. This is a very interesting part. You see this little light underneath? Yeah? What do you think this is? Can you understand? Because there is no light. How does this happen that in a shade, in the shade and the shadow, we see this little thing underneath? What is it?
Is it the reflection?
This is it's called a reflex. Yes, reflection, we can say it's a reflection. Yes, it's a reflection of the light. In English, it is called reflex. I can't move it. Oh my God. Okay, it's a reflex. So this is what happens when the light is everywhere. And what happens is basically objects block the light, just like we saw in the previous image, and then they kind of reflects from the areas around. And this is what happens when a little bit of light reflects from, let's say, the table and hits back the object. I know that Maddie and Lisa know what I'm talking about, and I have an idea that Hope probably could know a little bit about it. I want to make sure Charlotte understands, because Charlotte is very beginner here. Charlotte, do you understand what I'm talking about when I'm talking about light? Okay, very good. Okay, if you will have any questions, I know you have a bad microphone today, you can text them to me in the chat. You can raise your hand and text your question, okay? I want to make sure that you also understand everything, okay? Great. Yes?
The question is, how far is the light?
Here, in this...
source of light.
In this particular picture, well, we don't really see it, but let's say that this one would be under the lamp. This is the light object that is not far, because we can think about the shadow. Here, it's not so far, but it's not right here, okay? It's not right here. Because right here, probably this is where would be how far would the shadow go, okay? So this way we can understand with these lines. This help lines.
Can you please send the photo of which apples in the chat?
The apples to paint? The reference of our work
not to paint, the which apples.
Yes, of course. You want to see it again?
No, I just in the chat.
Okay, I will send it.
After.
Yes, of course. Of course, I'll send you, yes, sure. Okay, now let's move on. So what happens now with the apples? Let's look at the image of an apple and see what happens with the highlights in a simple work where the light is probably hitting from this angle. Okay, from kind of like from a forward. This is not a great example. This was an example of showing how in different materials we will approach working on with watercolor. So this is a watercolor material, or medium, let's say, medium. One sec. watercolor. This is watercolor. So why it's watercolor? Because here we use a lot of water and we start step 1, step 2, step 3 and step 4 is layering the colors. We're not going to do this today because nobody is working with watercolor, but this is the only paint that is so transparent that it's very important to do it step by step. And in watercolor there is no white. You don't really use white. That is why whitest will be the paper, and that is why these areas are important to be left, or you cannot see it, to really be left white always, because you will never be able to get back or erase like in a perfect work. And in acrylics or in a tablet, if you're working today, that's not a problem. So we just skip that point. Now, so let's see how the light spreading when we work with color works on a form considering the shape. And this is the first task that I want you to do. I want you to take your surface you're working on, draw a circle, draw or paint whatever you're going to use, a brush or a pencil. Why is it not drawing? Okay, I want you to draw a circle. Oh, okay. That's not an even circle. I thought it's gonna fix itself. So first we draw a circle, and then I want you to see how many lines of a different shade of a color will be in your sphere. So reflex is the 1, then after the light 2, then we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we will have 7 different tones. The only thing I want you to focus and note that probably the 4th and the 6th, 4 and 6 will be no, they're not similar. Why did I think that just now? No, they're all no, 4s and 7s. That's why 4s and 7s are very similar to each other. So I want you to try and do rough lines. Take one color and I want you to get from lightest to darkest. Remember last class we were doing the stretching of color? So I want you to use the stretching of one color, and give me an example of how this is going to work on your page, and show it to me either on the screen or you can send it in the chat, however you like.
This is not with the watercolor, right?
Up to you. You can use whatever material, but yeah, today I asked everyone.
If I use watercolor, it's not gonna get blended. Or we just do the lines. We don't do blending.
Yeah, for now you do the lines. Yes, we're doing this one first. The blending is a little harder.
Just the lines.
We will practice the blending on our next step, if you can. I want you to just try and practice. I'm not going to expect from you to give me a perfect sphere, just like an example, but practice will be very good for you today. I probably will make the break here with the video, so we can do more.